Welcome, I'm Howard Moore, Chief Meteorologist at StormQuant, and this is tutorial number 7 for the use of the StormQuant Weather Dashboard. And today we'll be going over map tools such as tracking pins, range rings, and GPS markers. So let's begin. Starting on our desktop, we'll go down to our StormQuant icon and we'll select it. And I have preloaded a viewport with reflectivity data from 3 radars. In the bottom left, you'll see in our box we have the Bunnell, Florida StormQuant radar, the NextRad radar at Melbourne, and the Jacksonville NextRad radar. So we'll use a little scenario here. Let's go to the map, and we're going to zoom in on a portion of the map. And for our scenario, let's assume that at the place where I have my cursor located, that we have a factory that we're concerned about. And we want to know how close the weather is getting, and we want to use some of the map tools for that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up some range rings. So I'm going to right click at my location, select range ring set, and immediately range rings appear with the distance at the top and bottom and the sides of each of the range rings, 5.4 nautical miles, 10.8 nautical miles, and so forth on out. In addition to that, I can right click, add my GPS marker. It places a marker on the map and gives us a latitude and longitude for that location. Now, we can make adjustments to this if these are not exactly what we wanted or where we wanted. So on the top left, we'll go up to our Windows, left click and select Inspector. This brings up a new window with multiple options. The first option is global, and global simply means that any of the options within there will impact all the viewports that we have open. So if we had multiple viewports open, anything we change in global will apply to all of them. And notice we can change our units for distance, altitude, and velocity. I'll show you that with go from nautical miles to feet. And at the top of our range rings and the side of our range rings, they've changed from nautical mile to feet. Okay. We'll change it back. Now for other changes to those map options, we can go down to our world objects. And we have multiple menus below that. And we'll go down to range ring set. We'll open that. The first thing we see is locked. We can select that and just lock all the options. It can't be moved. It can't be changed if locked is selected. Below that is the name. We can type in a name. This was for our factory. So these are range rings for our factory. And below that is our latitude and longitude. If this is not exactly where I wanted it, I can double click, type in a new value. I can also just simply left click and hold and slowly slide. And as I slide, my latitude changes in this box and my longitude can change. Below that are options for each of our range rings. On the left-hand side, there's a color box. We can change the color to a new one if we want to stand out better on the map. We can change the exact distance that we have listed by double clicking and selecting a new one. And as soon as I type in a number, the range rings will change. And just like the other boxes, if I don't want to type it in, I can left click and hold, and I can just drag to change the size of the range ring. To the right of each range ring is a trash can icon. We can select that to remove any one range ring. There's a plus symbol. We can click that and add a new range ring to the set. Below that, there's a Show Gizmos box. Notice it's checked right now. If I deselect that, the range rings disappear, and that's just temporarily gone till I reselect it. And then below that is another trash can icon that if we select, will remove all of our range rings. Similarly, below that we have our GPS menu or GPS marker menu. I can give it a name as well, lock it into place. I can change the latitude and longitude, and I can also change the color of that. Temporarily remove it from the map by deselecting the Show Gizmos, or delete it completely by selecting the trash can icon. Now let's move back over to the map. Let's say now that we're concerned about one of these cells here. So let's say it's this cell that I have my cursor on. I want to right click on that cell and then go to add a tracker pin. Now I want to know how far that cell is away from my factory. So I can go to where my factory is located, add. Now notice at the very bottom, because I have just placed a tracker pin, I now can select linked tracker pin for this new one. When I select linked tracker pin, it automatically links the one I just placed to the first one I put on the map and gives us a distance 11.08 nautical miles from my factory to this particular cell. And if that's not the exact location I want, I can left click on it, hold, and drag to new location, and the distance will adjust accordingly. I can right click on it and remove it, and the same with my previous one. I can remove it. Now that's linking the tracker pin within a single volume, radar volume. Let's add this one back. What if I'm concerned about how fast this particular cell is moving? So let's move my cursor down to our volumes, and let's move forward in time to a new volume. Now this is the center. Our cell has moved, and we want to know about how fast it's moved. So let me go back to the map, click my first tracker pin and highlight it. Go to the center of my cell that's moved. I'm going to right click, add a linked tracker pin. Now, because we have linked across radar volumes, it not only gives us a distance of between the first tracker pin and the last one of 3.77 nautical miles, but it also gives us the duration of time between that it took to move to that new location and the approximate speed based on that. So you can get an idea of how quickly and, of course, what direction here that's moving. And simply right click on each to remove it. And now we'll go to our final world object, and that's going to be our elevation ruler. So we'll go to the left under world objects, elevation ruler. Now, elevation ruler is not applicable when we're in two-dimensional views. So let's go back to the top of our viewport, select voxel view to go to three-dimensional view. Again, we want to show our edges, enhance our edges. So we'll go to visuals, click calculate normals. Okay. Now let's go back over to our elevation ruler and click on show gizmos. Notice in the center of our map, we now have an elevation ruler that gives us a height above the ground in feet. And again, if we want to change that from feet, we can go to our global option on the top left, go to our altitude units, and change that to meters or kilometers if we choose. So just change that to meters. Okay. Now that gives you a little bit better idea using that elevation ruler about how high these returns are above the ground. So that's all for today's tutorial for our map tools. I hope you enjoyed it, and please join us again for future tutorials.